How's it going? So today I'm making the dough that I use to make homemade pizza. So I mean it's kind of hard to film because a lot of it I'm just kind of using my hands. So I figured I'd kind of start just kind of talking about all the ingredients first. So I do bread flour just because it has more gluten in it. It's got a higher protein content, so you're gonna end up with kind of a chewier dough, which I enjoy. Otherwise, you could use all purpose, but I think you're going to have to end up kneading that for longer. Using the bread flour, you just end up needing less kneading. um, Phone just fell in the sink. uh, okay, so um, that's the start, and I use a kitchen scale, and I do 850 grams of flour. Next, I do 12 grams of rapid rise yeast, which is like a pack and a half. I'm actually trying this time just putting 2 packs in there, which ended up being like 15 grams, just to see if I need to be wasting yeast or not. So we'll see if that works or not. And then, kind of in bread terms, I don't know how much baking you've done, but a lot of times you'll hear doughs talked about as with like a percentage. So this one, it's like 65% hydration. And that just means kind of how much of the weight in flour are you then going to add in water. So this one, I said 65% water. So we're adding, I mean, it's hard to sometimes be exact, but we're going like 550 grams of water that's warm. That's going to help activate the yeast that we already kind of mixed into the flour. Um, so just kind of, I don't know, let your sink run for a second on hot. And I mean, you don't need to go like simmering water or anything, but just kind of as hot as your sink will get it. Um, 550 grams of that. But before you mix that in, so pretty much I'm doing all the dry ingredients first. So we've got 850 grams of flour, 12 or in my case 15 grams of the yeast, and then 17 grams of salt. So you'll mix that all together and just kind of stir it around, make it homogeneous, and then you're going to add in the 550 grams of water. Mix that in the bowl. And then once it's kind of cohesive, then you're going to take that out, flour a work surface, and get to kneading, which I don't know can kind of take a while. If you have like a kitchen stand mixer, that would pretty much eliminate you having to use your hands at all. That would save a ton of time. I just don't have one. So I knead by hand. But if you have a mixer with a dough hook on it, you can just kind of let it run. And then the telltale sign that I'm looking for with the dough is once you've kneaded it to the point where you can kind of take a piece off and then stretch it in your fingers. And I think they call it like the window pane test. You stretch it out, and if you can like see light through it before the dough splits apart, then you've kneaded it enough and you've got enough gluten development and you can stop there. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working through. I'll try to record a few of these steps at each kind of stopping point, but I'm gonna have sloppy hands and whatever. So yeah, I'll do my best. But yeah, that's kind of. So here's the dough that I just now mixed the water in and have started to kind of work it around with this wooden spoon. As you can tell, it's like really craggly, not cohesive at all. So this is just going to kind of take some working with this spoon, and then once it kind of can form into one cohesive dough ball, that's when I'm going to take it out, put it on a floured work surface, and then I'll start kneading it. So I'll come back when I'm at that point. All right, so now I'm at this point. As you can see, kind of forming together, I've got not the prettiest, but just kind of a basic little lump of dough now. So now the kneading on a floured work surface is really what's going to start to smooth this out, and shape it towards what's going to end up looking like our final product. Again, like I said, if you've got a stand mixer, just connect the dough hook and let that rip for like, you probably only need like 5 or 10 minutes. But if you don't, it's going to take some hand kneading. And that will probably take a little longer just because we can't work as fast as the machine. So yeah, I'm gonna flour my countertop and then get this on there, and then I'll show you what it looks like after maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes of working it around. So here I've been working it for probably like 4-ish minutes. As you can see, I'm really smoothing out now. It's really looking more cohesive, but the top is still, I mean, it's not perfect. I'm definitely not done here. But just one kind of piece of advice I can offer at this stage is that while you're kneading it, you might notice that like all of a sudden it goes kind of more taut. It's really bouncing back. You don't feel like you can fold it as well. I mean, that is what we want. We're developing that structure inside of the bread. So like, I mean, that tells us we're on track. But at the same time, it's going to be hard to keep working it. So what you can do, just kind of take a step back for like 1 to 2 minutes. And that's going to give it time to like relax on the inside. And then you'll notice that when you come back, it's going to be more workable again, and you can kind of get more productive kneading done. And you might have to take a couple of breaks like this, just kind of depending on a whole bunch of factors. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the biggest expert, but I know temperature or whatever has something to do with it. And I mean, your flour compared to mine might be a little different. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you may or may not need this step, but I've noticed that it kind of can help. And it also gives you a chance just to kind of clean your work surface. I'm reusing the bowl that I mixed this dough in. That's what I'm going to end up proofing it in as well. So I got that all cleaned out, and all the bits that were stuck to the side washed away, so that I'll be ready to, when this dough is ready to get stored, have somewhere to put it. So yeah, it kind of gives you a chance to clean things up, and we'll kind of end up saving you some work as well. So I will be back when I am done kneading. So here I am now done kneading. As you can see, the top is really kind of smoothed out a little more. It's not going to be perfect looking. I mean, at least in my case, I don't know, it kind of varies time to time, but kind of the test that I go off of, the one that I mentioned before, that window pane test, I pinched off a decent sized chunk of this dough ball, and then just kind of with both hands spread it. I mean, gently enough where, I mean, you don't want it to to rip because you're trying to rip it, but you're just going to try your best to stretch it out gently and hold it to a light source. I just did my window. And then if you can see light passing through that, if you can get it thin enough that light will pass through without the dough just tearing easily, then you'll know that you've kneaded it enough. One more thing that you can kind of go based off of is that, like, when you poke this dough, it's going to spring back to you. That's another good sign. So mine here is doing both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this dough ball into a oiled bowl. It's going to be that same bowl that I did before. I just put a few glugs of olive oil in there, and I'm just going to plop this in there, and then I'm going to cover it with cling wrap. So I'll be back when I've done that. Okay, now here is where I've got this dough now. It's just in this oiled bowl, covered with press and seal, just to protect it from as much air. So this now is kind of a stopping point. What you can do from here is you would just let this sit on the countertop for like 2 or 3 hours, and then you can get to stretching it out, dividing it, and making pizzas. But the better option, and what I'm going to be doing this time, is called a cold fermentation. So essentially what we're doing is we're going to take this and then keep it in the refrigerator, and you can do that for like 1 to 3 days. And over that time, it's going to be able to rise, but come up in just a slower, more controlled manner. And what you're going to get out of that is just kind of a deeper kind of flavor development. Because otherwise, I mean, the dough is going to act texturally pretty similar. But you're going to get more kind of fermentation, more of the kind of yeasty flavors coming out. And I don't know, it's pretty enjoyable when you have the time to put into doing that. So I'm just doing this a day ahead, so I'll have it in the fridge for a day, and I'm gonna pull it out probably a few hours before I want to be making the pizzas, just because I want to have it be able to come up to room temperature. That's going to make it a lot easier to kind of stretch the dough into a pizza shape. Um, but yeah, when you pull this out, you're going to be able to notice kind of the yeasty, almost like alcohol-y smell coming off of it. I mean, that's how much fermentation you're going to get from the yeast. Um, just with that kind of productive environment in the fridge, and it being able to go for much longer than you could leaving it on the countertop. I mean, if you did it on the countertop, you just don't have enough time. You can't really safely leave this out for more than like 4 hours. So in the fridge, I mean, the flavor development, it's just much higher. So this is kind of, I'm done for the dough step. This dough is also great for garlic knots. I did that probably 2 weeks ago. You can just kind of set some of this aside, roll it out, tie it into just a simple little knot, bake it at 350 or 425, anything like that, for until it's golden brown, looks done, and then just cover them in garlicky butter. Not doing that this time. This time it's just pizza, so I'll come back when it's pizza time and I'm stretching these doughs out and getting the rest of the pizza ingredients.